Hey everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Oh.
Today we're going to be checking out Erin Frame
Oh, yeah.
from the beautiful Catalina foothills in Arizona.
I love that area.
Oh, it's gorgeous there.
Right.
And she's a realtor there, so, I always
Of course you love real estate.
love me some real estate stories.
Yes.
But what's really cool about Erin is
Yeah.
her journey to sobriety and,
Yeah.
and what she's built around it.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's captivating how she's turned this personal experience into something so empowering for others. And speaking of captivating, have you ever been to Tucson?
Oh, I love Tucson.
It's a beautiful city.
Oh my gosh. The Tucson Mall,
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
But the botanical garden,
Oh, yeah.
stunning.
The desert vibes.
And the Museum of Art,
Oh, yeah.
don't even get me started.
So cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Such a cool vibe all around.
You can definitely see why someone like Erin, who thrives on positive energy, would be drawn to that area.
Right.
But let's talk about the energy she's creating herself with her podcast, Sober Fierce.
Oh, yeah.
She had a run back in 2021, and guess what?
Why?
She's relaunching it in 2025.
That's awesome. Love that.
Very cool.
So before we jump into Sober Fierce,
Yeah.
let's set the scene a little bit.
Okay.
Erin was a heavy drinker
Mm-hmm.
for 2 decades,
Wow.
20 years.
That's a long time.
What really struck me was
Yeah.
her saying there was this point where she just couldn't look at herself anymore.
It's powerful.
And apparently the pandemic was a big catalyst for that self-reflection.
You know, it's interesting how these periods of upheaval can force us to confront things we might otherwise avoid.
Right.
You know, we're forced out of routines, and suddenly there's this space for introspection.
Yeah, and it sounds like she really used that space.
You did.
Initially,
Mm.
she called her journey Sober Bliss,
Oh,
but it evolved into Sober Fierce.
I love
And
that.
I love that shift.
Yeah.
It's not just about surviving sobriety.
Right.
It's about owning it,
Yes.
almost like a superpower.
Exactly. She's challenging the whole perception of sobriety. Instead of shame, she's promoting pride and empowerment, which is crucial.
Yes.
It's not just saying, don't drink. It's saying, let's change the entire mindset.
And that mindset shift
Yeah.
seems to have had a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about struggling with anxiety,
Yeah.
especially when traveling,
Mm.
and how sobriety has drastically reduced it.
Wow.
There's even this anecdote about her
Yeah.
being so good at hiding her drinking that people rarely saw her drunk.
Oh, wow.
It's like she was living a double life.
That's a powerful reminder that addiction doesn't always look the way we expect. The ability to function,
Right.
even excel while struggling, is sometimes part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It delays getting help because outwardly everything seems fine.
So how does she actually break free?
Right.
Because it couldn't have been easy to go from 2 decades of heavy drinking to sober.
Right.
What were her strategies?
Well, her approach was very intentional. She replaced wine with kombucha.
Okay.
But here's the clever part.
Okay.
She'd pour it into a wine glass.
Oh,
It was about disrupting the routine, but keeping a familiar ritual.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's like tricking your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
I've heard about that with food cravings too.
Oh, yeah.
Swapping out unhealthy snacks for healthier versions,
Right.
but keeping the act of snacking itself.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that habits have multiple layers.
Right.
There's the physical act, but also the psychological and emotional associations.
Mm-hmm.
Erin also forced herself to do things she'd normally avoid during her drinking hours,
Okay.
pushing herself out of that comfort zone.
So instead of reaching for a drink,
Mm-hmm.
she'd go for a walk
Yep.
or call a friend.
Exactly.
It's like actively choosing a different path, even when the old path feels more comfortable.
Yeah. And
She even mentions attending a Seahawks game with her parents completely sober
oh, wow.
and enjoying it more than she would before work.
Those kinds of experiences are so important.
Right.
They prove that joy and connection don't have to be tied to alcohol.
Right.
It reinforces the idea that you can have fun, be social, and celebrate life without it.
And that seems to tie directly into her emphasis on restructuring her entire daily schedule.
Yes.
She talks about this exercise of writing down a drinking schedule versus a non-drinking schedule to see how much time she was actually reclaiming.
It's a brilliant way to visualize the impact of alcohol on your life.
Mm.
It's not just about the hours spent drinking. It's about the time lost to hangovers, fatigue, and making decisions you wouldn't have made sober.
There's this great story she tells about pushing herself to go for a walk with a friend, something she wouldn't have done while drinking.
Yeah,
Afterward, she felt amazing,
of course.
and she realized it was those small choices,
Hmm.
Those seemingly insignificant moments that were adding up to create a completely different experience of life.
Yeah, it's the cumulative effect of these seemingly small decisions.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that change isn't always about grand gestures. It's often about consistently choosing the healthier option, even when it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient at first.
And that brings us to another really interesting aspect of Erin's story.
Yeah.
Her focus on fitness and nutrition.
Yeah.
She talks about working with Carol Carruth from Fit Body Boot Camp
Oh, cool.
and really emphasizing the importance of quality calories over quantity, staying hydrated and getting enough protein.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it. Alcohol's essentially empty calories, and it often disrupts our eating habits.
Hmm.
Erin realized that she wasn't properly nourishing her body while drinking, and that was contributing to her overall feeling of unwellness.
Right?
By prioritizing a balanced diet and regular exercise, she was giving her body the tools it needed to thrive. And this ties into a fascinating study from Harvard that Erin mentions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it highlighted that a healthy and positive community is crucial for both happiness and longevity.
That makes a lot of sense. We're social creatures after all.
Right.
Having a support system, people who lift you up and share your values, that's got to be a game changer.
Absolutely. And it's almost like Erin has created that kind of community with her podcast.
Mm-hmm.
She's providing a space for people to connect, share their experiences, and find strength in each other's stories.
Okay, here's where it gets really intriguing for me. Sober Fierce isn't just about alcohol, right?
Right.
She applies it to any area of life where you want to grow,
Yeah.
any challenge you're facing.
Exactly.
It's about pushing past those self-imposed limitations and realizing your full potential.
I think what resonates with people is that it's about taking ownership. You're not a victim of circumstance. You have the power to choose a different path to define success on your terms. And it's inspiring how much her message has resonated.
Yeah.
She tells a story about a friend who calls her sober fierce hat her armor.
I love that.
It's like a physical representation of that inner strength she's cultivated.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's like a visual reminder of the commitment you've made to yourself, a tangible symbol of the internal work you're doing.
Right.
And she talks about those visual reminders a lot.
Yeah.
Hats, bracelets, necklaces.
Yeah.
It's almost like having an external anchor for the internal transformation.
Do you think those kinds of things actually help? I mean, it's not the hat itself, right? It's what it represents.
That's a good question. I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
For some, it might feel a little gimmicky,
Yeah.
but for others, that constant visual cue could be really powerful.
Sure.
It's like a little nudge throughout the day to stay committed to your goals.
I see your point. It's like a string tied around your finger to remind you of something important.
Exactly.
And Erin talks about how advertisers often associate alcohol with perfection. You drink this and suddenly you're beautiful, successful, happy. It's so misleading.
It's insidious, really.
Yeah.
They prey on our insecurities, making us believe that alcohol is the key to fitting in or achieving some idealized version of ourselves. And it's everywhere. Billboards, TV commercials, social media.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's hard to escape that message.
It's like we're constantly being bombarded with this subliminal message that alcohol equals happiness.
Right.
And anything less is somehow inadequate. But Erin's story is a powerful counter-narrative. She's living proof that you can be happy, successful, and fulfilled without alcohol.
Right.
In fact, you might even find that you're more yourself.
Yeah.
More authentic and joyful when you're not relying on it as a crutch.
So we've talked a lot about alcohol.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about how this sober, fierce mindset applies to other areas of life.
Okay.
Does Erin address that?
Yes, and she shares a really interesting personal anecdote
Okay.
about overcoming her gambling addiction. What's fascinating is that quitting smoking was actually the catalyst for breaking that addiction.
Wow.
It's like conquering one vice gave her the confidence and momentum to tackle another.
That's amazing. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One positive change sets off a chain reaction.
Totally.
And it really highlights the power of believing in yourself.
Yeah.
If you can overcome one seemingly impossible challenge, it opens up this whole new realm of possibility. You start to think, well, what else am I capable of?
That's the essence of Sober Fierce. It's about finding that inner strength and applying it to every area of your life. It's not just about addiction. It's a framework for continuous growth and self-discovery.
So what does this all mean for our listener?
Yeah.
What's the takeaway?
I think Erin's story is a powerful call to action.
Okay.
It's an invitation to reflect on your own life and identify areas where you could embody that sober, fierce spirit. Where are you holding yourself back?
hmm
What dreams or goals are you putting on hold?
Yeah.
What would you feel empowered to accomplish if you were operating from a place of strength and self-belief?
And the beautiful thing is you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Erin's built this amazing network of resources. There's her podcast, her Instagram, and she's even launching a Facebook group to foster that sense of community and connection. Plus, there's a whole sober movement happening right now. It's growing, evolving, and it's super exciting to be a part of it.
There are so many resources available now, from online communities to non-alcoholic bars popping up everywhere.
Wow.
It's becoming more mainstream, and the stigma around sobriety is slowly fading away.
It feels like we're finally moving past this idea that you need alcohol to have fun or let loose.
Yeah.
There are so many other ways to connect with people, unwind, and experience joy.
And that's a really empowering message,
Hmm.
especially for anyone who's ever felt pressured to drink or felt like they couldn't be themselves without it. It's about reclaiming your social life and defining what truly brings you happiness.
So to wrap up this incredible deep dive into Erin Frame and the power of Sober Fierce, what are the key takeaways? What do we want our listener to walk away with? I think Erin's story is such a powerful example of transformation. It shows us that change is possible, no matter how deeply ingrained our habits may seem.
Right.
It starts with that commitment to yourself to face those things that are holding you back and embrace a new way of living.
And it's about that reframing she talks about so much, turning what's often seen as a weakness or something to be ashamed of
Right.
into a source of strength.
Yeah,
It's owning your choices and celebrating the journey, even when it's messy or challenging.
totally. It's like she's saying you can be proud of choosing a different path,
Yeah.
of prioritizing your well-being.
Yeah,
And that's incredibly powerful.
absolutely.
And Sober Fierce isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a whole mindset, a commitment to personal growth, a reminder that you have the power to create the life you truly want.
I think that's what makes it so much bigger than just sobriety.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we all have areas in our lives where we could be a little more fierce,
Yeah.
a little more bold, a little more intentional about pursuing what matters to us.
So before we wrap up, I have one final thought-provoking question for our listener out there.
Yeah.
If alcohol weren't a factor, what would you feel empowered to accomplish? What dreams would you chase? What adventures would you embark on?
That's a great question to sit with for a while. And remember, you don't need all the answers right now. This is just the beginning of the journey. We encourage you to share your thoughts, your struggles, your victories online. Let's keep this conversation going and support each other on this path to living a more sober, fierce life.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep diving deep.